Take your deep breaths. Inhale, exhale. Allow yourself to get centered and receive the gratitude and appreciation as I welcome you to a podcast hosted by yours truly, Sam Walker INSPO. Allow me to introduce you to Can I Talk My Shift? The podcast where we talk all things internal and how to shift your views on self. I'm talking the inner workings that you've denied for far too long. Now we can accept a new level of accountability, which ultimately allows you to show up more authentically in all aspects of life. Remember, everything revolves back to self. Inhale, exhale, and let's go. So happy to have you here today. Welcome again to the Can I Talk My Shift podcast by yours truly, Sam Walker INSPO. Yo, welcome to the INSPO family as well. There's going to be a lot of welcoming and a lot of appreciation on this one because I've arrived. I've arrived to a space of pure authenticity, working in my purpose, and free from the burden of perfectionism and failure. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today. It's actually the main topic of today's episode. The very first episode, we're going straight into it. One of those soul-wrenching words or terms, if you may. The word failure. Now, I'm sure if you're listening to this, you failed at something at some point in your life. You might have just failed before you listened to this podcast. And I'm here to tell you that I learned something along my journey, as I'm still on my journey, as many of you are today. And I want to share this tidbit with you because I feel like it will free you from that spirit or free you from that consciousness that's kind of got your creativity balled up. And it may even have you in a space where you no longer fit in. Okay. I don't remember exactly where I heard this from. I did find it on social media because I like to dedicate at least about an hour of my days now to inner work. Okay. And a part of my inner work sometimes during the week is I go and I look at different platforms and I consume, high vibratory content. So that way I can then dissect it for myself and take the bits and pieces that I need for me and be able to either vocalize them later on, be able to recall them in a conversation later on to help somebody else, give credit where credit is due, and also form my own ideas on it. Now, the thing that I heard about failure, which instantly set me free in that moment, was this, and this is not verbatim. And if you do end up hearing this somewhere or seeing maybe possibly where I heard it from, make sure you reach out to me on Instagram at Sam Walker INSPO. Shoot me a DM and let me know so that way I can give them props for sure, because I just can't remember off the top of my head. But with this being the first episode, I felt like it was important to get into this term failure. So the person said, failure is not a person. And so you sit back and you think about that for a minute. You probably kind of laugh to yourself like, well, duh, failure ain't a person. But listen, failure is not a person. Therefore, failure is something that you can identify with as a person. So you can't be a failure because failure is an experience. It's something that you experience, but it's not who you are. Let me say it again. Failure is an experience, and it's not who you are. Now, what I want you to draw from that is, if you've been walking around with the weight of failure on your spirit, get that shit off of you, because it's not real. You're identifying with something that cannot be a tangible physical person. It's an energy, though. It's an energetic experience that's been pulling you down. You've been carrying that shit for too long. Identify it as an experience and let it go. Because each and every day you create your experience. You can experience new, higher levels of anything. If you continue to identify with that same experience each and every day, that is on you. And this is why it's important to say, can I talk my shift? Because I did the same thing. I failed so many times at so many different things. And that's why I feel right at home with this podcast, because I did podcasting. I created my own media company with a friend of mine who at that time was a best friend. And we've since parted ways, and there's no love lost there at all. But I feel like it's important to acknowledge where I went wrong in many of those situations, because that allowed me to understand why I experienced the weight of failure the way I did, is because I couldn't understand why or how I got there. Too busy looking at the outside or the people around me in the experience, and then internalizing that as if it was me. And that's the wrong way to go about it. The right way to go about it is exactly how I did it, or how I've been doing it, which is, okay, we failed. Yes, this is probably what they may or may not have done, but what was my experience? How was I showing up in the entire experience or throughout the experience? And then can I let it go? Did I let it go? Am I going to let it go? Do I want to carry this shit like that anymore? Don't I want to experience something new, something real, something that vibrates with my higher self, the higher version of me? The answer was hell yeah. I'm not trying to stay in this shit. I don't want to be remembered for that. And I don't want to remember that experience. I want to learn from it and move on. Chuck up the deuce to it. You know what I'm saying? If it was in the crib, pull up the window, get the shades rocking, and get that shit up out of here. Fleeting, fast, quick, and in a hurry. So, failure is an experience. You are not a failure. And I'm talking in regards to if you've been divorced, if you've been fired from a job, if you've crashed a car, if you've broken up with a girlfriend, boyfriend, if you did something to make your parents upset, if you're a younger listener out there who's learning things well before I did at my age right now, there's so many different ways and levels and intricacies that failure impedes on our life and our growth. And I just want to make you aware of that. I want to make you aware of it in a quick tidbit, because just that one small nuance is like the key that you've been missing to unlock the door to walk out of your current experience. Leave the house, get out into the new world and see it for what it really is. Change your perspective, change the lens in which you view your life, and change the energy in your aura and how you experience the world. We're done experiencing the world as failures. And people can try to cover it up with money and fame or money. People try to cover it up all the time. But inside, you know the truth about yourself, and you know the truth about how you really feel. And money ain't changing that shit. So, again, failure is an experience. There's a science to failure. I don't have that answer for you right now. That's when you go and do the inner work and you start to realize, was I showing up authentically? Was I even really operating out of love in what I was doing at the time that I was failing? Or was I operating out of fear? I can bet you 9.5 times out of 10 that you was operating out of that goddamn fear, though. For sure. The thing is, we've all done it. Starting this podcast, for me, was the first time in my life where I took control of my life. There isn't many references for me and my family that where people take control of their finances and their creative abilities and merge the two. And so I made a promise to myself that I would be that person for me and not for them. Create my own path and pave my own lane and do my own research. So that way I know that I can make this a real thing and a new experience. The frequency that I'm on is very different than what I've encountered in the last some odd years of my life. I'm joyful. I'm very, very grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to have you to even listen to this message. Shout out to you. Again, if you want to reach out to me, hit me up on Instagram. We're starting off slow. Instagram, samwalkerinspo.com, or you can go to my website, samwalkerinspo.com. Like I said, Instagram is at samwalkerinspo, or you can check out my website, samwalkerinspo.com. I have blog posts that I put up there as a debut author. I have my book that will be published at the end of Q4 this year, at the top of Q1 next year. And I'm going to utilize this podcast to funnel some of the many teachings that I've learned during my inner work over the last couple of years, and how I've been able to change my perspective on things and traumas that have been affecting me since a youngin'. And I hope to help you alleviate some of those traumas that you've been hiding, not only from yourself, but from the people around you, so you can show up more authentically, more authentic, and be real. Change some lives. That's what it's about. I'll use my voice to do that. And this frequency right here is real. As we close out the podcast, I just want to thank you. Thank you for giving me your attention. You're undivided. I really appreciate you, and I extend gratitude to you from one heart to another. I hope you enjoyed Can I Talk My Shift? I hope in just these few moments of listening to my voice that you were able to shift out into a new perspective, and you can move more authentically. Till next time, peace.